Hello and welcome to another episode of Sci-Fi Night Top 5. However, this list is a little bit different because A, it's going to be Halloween movies, and B, we're not doing one list, but we're doing two. You see, I found someone who loves Halloween as much as I do, YouTuber Joseph Ari, so he's going to join me in presenting his top 5 list as well.
Thanks for the introduction, buddy. Hello to all the Sci-Fi Night viewers and to my viewers as well. And yes, Sebastian, you're absolutely right. Halloween is my all-time favorite holiday. I love everything about it. I love the parties, I love the costumes, I love the movie nights. Just throw it at me.
So I'm going to move ahead to my number 5 spot, which goes to Friday the 13th, Part 4. So those of you who watched my top 5 Friday the 13th films episode will know that this is my favorite Friday the 13th film so far, and basically I just find it to be the seminal Friday the 13th movie. This is when Jason really came into his own as an established slasher villain, and when the series really started to hit its stride. So what's this movie about, you ask? It's about Jason Voorhees killing teenagers. Jesus Christ, what else could it be about? Now sure, there is more to the story than that, but honestly it's not really that important. This is the perfect film just to pop in and enjoy without having to figure out some convoluted mystery or who the killer is. The pacing is great, the acting is surprisingly good for Friday the 13th standards, and this entry contains some of the best kills in the series. This is a great Halloween movie. I mean, after all, it even has tons of Halloween masks in it. So with my number 5 spot out of the way, let's hear what Joseph Ari has to say.
Great number 5, I have to admit. It also happens to be my favorite movie in the Friday the 13th series. And if you ever wondered what's behind me, it's actually a Jason mask. Yeah, that's normally located right behind me and you guys never get to see it, but it's there. That having been said, let's move up to my number 5.
Here's Johnny.
Number 5, The Shining. Now, The Shining is a horror all-time classic. It has actually been called the first horror epic, and I believe for a lot of good reasons. First of all, this movie is actually based on a Stephen King novel, but it really took a lot of original license with the characters and the plot, and I absolutely adore this movie. Everything about this movie works. It combines elements of ghost story and psychological thriller, and it's the one horror movie that makes me think of atmosphere, because the atmosphere in this movie is seriously off-putting. Everything about this movie seems like a dark and twisted dream that you're being sucked into as a viewer. The cinematography is flawless, the acting is amazing. I mean, Jack Nicholson. When talking about this movie, people very often address the fact that this just might be Jack Nicholson's defining role. And this movie has a kid actor that doesn't suck. No, he's actually amazing. Normally I have a problem with kid actors because they tend to ruin everything if they suck, but this kid is amazing. That was my number 5. Now I'm curious, what's your number 4, Sebastian?
You know, you're right. I'm a sucker for atmosphere and good build-up, and The Shining is pretty unrivaled in that sense. Well anyway, look at my number 4 spot, which goes to Halloween Part 3, Season of a Witch. Okay, quick disclaimer, yes, I know that this film does not feature Michael Myers or Laurie Strode, or almost anything from his 2 previous Halloween films, but you know what? It wasn't supposed to! The Halloween series was meant to be out of standalone movies, all taking place on Halloween with a different setup. But since Michael Myers became such a horror icon, everyone expected him to show up in the 3rd film, even though it has nothing to do with the first 2 movies. Thing is, if you just think of this as a movie called Season of a Witch, then it's probably the most Halloween-y movie out there. Yes, I know Halloween isn't a word, I just made it up, but this film just oozes Halloween. There's just so much Halloween in this movie. Bugs, weird alien robots, curses, beheadings, enchanted items, warlocks. And of course the film takes place leading up to Halloween night and features a special brand of Halloween masks. The plot is actually a little quirky, but basically it's a murder mystery that leads to something much more sinister. Overall, there's just so much Halloween stuff in this film. Most of all, the theme song that plays throughout the entire movie, and which has never left my brain since I first heard it.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween, silver shamrock.
Seriously, after watching this movie, expect that Halloween theme to be the sound of your existence. Really, this film does have a lot of issues, and I can't in all honesty say it's a good movie, but it definitely gets me in the spirit of a holiday in all the right ways. Alright Eve, I'm definitely looking forward to your number 4 spot, buddy, because it is a film that I love.
Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy. For fuck's sake, you were right about that song. And I have to admit that it is actually funny that Halloween Season of the Witch is the most Halloween-ish film of the entire series, even though it doesn't include Michael Myers, which is why, in my opinion, it makes perfect sense to have that movie on the list. Now let's move forward to my number 4.
Let's get this party started! Let's get this party started!
Number 4, The Cabin in the Woods. Now, The Cabin in the Woods is what I like to call a modern horror classic. The film was co-written by the one and only Joss Whedon. And if people know one thing about me, then it's the fact that I adore Joss Whedon. This movie is cleverly written, it's dark, but it also has humor in it, it's self-referential, and unlike any other movie before, it completely deconstructs the horror genre. And in doing so, it gives you something familiar while also creating an entirely new genre. Since I'm so amazed by this movie and so in love with it, I actually have to announce that soon I will be giving you an analyzed video of The Cabin in the Woods, where I talk about my personal interpretation of the events that occur in The Cabin in the Woods. That having been said, back to you, Sebastian.
Alright, so Cabin in the Woods as your number 4 spot is a great choice, but it could have been greater because I got it as my number 3 spot. Alright, so I don't want to just echo what was just said about the film, but just let me say what I feel makes this such a great Halloween film. Halloween is about tricks or treats, right? Well, this film is a real treat that kind of plays a trick on the entire genre of horror. Under the guise of being a cliché slasher film, this movie actually serves as a complete dissection of slashers and horror films, which basically makes fun of all the parties involved, while at the same time making a tribute to them. The final 10 minutes are sure to satisfy any monster fan, because the Halloween levels throughout this film basically get increased by 600%. This is an extremely well written and entertaining film, just perfect for Halloween. Alright buddy, I'm definitely looking forward to your special episode on Cabin in the Woods, that's gonna be great. But I also kinda wanna know what you got on your number 3 spot.
I am so glad that Cabin in the Woods also made your list, and surprisingly enough, it's actually higher on your list than on mine. But since you're already getting an analyzed video, I will now stop and rather move forward to my number 3. Number 3, Saw. Yep, I know whenever that movie is mentioned, people go like, oh, you're so into torture porn. No, I'm actually not. I can't stand Eli Roth movies, and I hate most of the Saw sequels. But the first one is actually phenomenal when you think about it. It was shot on a budget of basically nothing, and it started out as a film school project. The movie is extremely cleverly written, it takes place in real time, and it has one of the best twist endings I've ever seen in any movie, to be honest. And yeah, while some of the acting sucks, especially the guy that plays Adam, you also have Ben from Lost and Danny Glover in it. And when talking about Halloween, Billy the Puppet has become an icon of Halloween. So that was my number 3 spot. What's your number 2?
You know, you're right. If you look back at the first Saw movie, there isn't really a whole lot of blood and gore in it. Most of it really is implied. However, I can't say I'm a big fan of the sequels because we kind of threw tension right out the window and just in service of gore. Well anyway, that brings us to my number 2 spot, which goes to the classic 1978 film, Halloween. Alright, you're probably thinking, Sebastian, you multilingual titan of a man, how can this not be number 1? Well, we'll get to that in my number 1 spot. Obviously, this film oozes Halloween, much like Halloween 3. This classic movie about the deranged killer Michael Myers started off an entire franchise and just has so many classic moments. It basically kicked off the slasher genre, and it's one of the ultimate Halloween movies ever made. The film only had a $300,000 budget, but honestly everything came together perfectly as if it was a Halloween miracle. Had it not been for the tight budget, the prop department might not have settled for a William Shatner mask, and Halloween might not have reached legendary status. It just goes to show that a labor of love can pay off. I mean, in the end, I'd say that this film is well deserving of having the actual title Halloween. No other movie does. But that brings me to some curiosity for your number 2 spot, Eve.
Of course, John Carpenter's Halloween is a classic among classics, and I'm so glad to see it on your list, but it didn't quite make the list. However, I am really happy that you did mention this movie, because if none of us had mentioned Halloween as a Halloween movie, yeah, goodbye to our YouTube careers. But now let's move forward to my number 2. Number 2, Scream. To me, Scream is a very special movie. Similar to Cabin in the Woods, Scream also knew the silliness of the horror genre, and it was, in my opinion, actually the first one to address all the cliches of the entire horror genre.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
Is that the one where the guy had knives for fingers?
Yeah, Freddy Krueger.
Ghostface is now such an iconic character when it comes to the lore of Halloween or horror in general. Wes Craven created a masterpiece while poking fun at horror while also being horrific. And this movie has probably my favorite intro to any horror movie ever, because the movie starts with the very iconic stalker phone call. And you're like, holy shit, that's what I'm in for? All in all, it is a perfect movie to watch with a group of people during Halloween night. But now I'm really excited to hear about your number 1. Let's hear it.
You know, I gotta agree with you. Spending Halloween watching Scream with a bunch of friends, that sounds like a damn good time. Now, I'm not gonna say that my number 2 spot is better, but it might be a little better now. In all seriousness, Scream is both exciting and funny. It's very well written, and it really is better than a lot of people give it credit for actually being. Just, don't think about sequels all that much. Anyway, this brings us to my number 1 spot, which goes to another John Carpenter film, 1982's The Thing. This is my ultimate Halloween movie because the atmosphere of the film is just perfect for the holiday. But I'm actually gonna get a lot more in-depth as to why I love this film, the making of it, and its legacy in a Sci-Fi Night special. So I'm gonna let Joseph Ari reveal his number 1 spot first.
I really gotta say, I love your number 1 pick because The Thing is actually my favorite monster movie or creature feature of all time. But I will not dive into that too much because you are going to review this film. And now let's get to my number 1 movie that to me embodies everything that I connect to the holiday of Halloween. Number 1, Trick or Treat. The movie that I often refer to as Goosebumps for adults. Seriously, everything about this movie is Halloween. It has it all. It has the girls in the slutty costumes. It has kids trick-or-treating. It's the first movie to actually address the lore and legend of Halloween. It explores the origins. It features monsters, and it has that perfect fall vibe. The movie plays with colors like no other film, but I will stop because you're getting a review on that one as well.
I also really enjoy Trick or Treat, as well as the term Goosebumps for adults. That's a pretty good phrase, my friend. Anyway, I gotta agree with you, it's a really great Halloween movie, and it gave us a new horror icon in the form of a character who we're not gonna talk that much about in this episode because you guys are gonna get a special on it instead. You guys are also gonna get a special on my number 1 spot, 1982's The Thing, which will be coming up shortly. Anyway, I want to take the time to thank Joseph Ari for doing this top 5 list collaboration with me, and we'll see you guys in the next episode of Sci-Fi Night.
Thank you guys for watching, thank you Sci-Fi Night viewers, and of course, thank you, Sebastian Wendell Martinez. My review for Trick or Treat will be up in a couple hours, so will be Sci-Fi Night's review of The Thing. Happy Halloween everybody, enjoy the holiday.